Before we get to the point of this video, I need to play you a clip really quick. You may have seen this, but I promise you when I'm done talking, it's going to take on a whole different meaning. This is a report that was put out by NBC in 2007, a prediction on what things would be like in the year 2017.
The year is 2017. You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
So what they were talking about here is that by what is now next year, they were talking about everyone being in some form microchipped. And that microchip would be tied to all of your information, your medical information, your financial information, everything about you would be tied to this microchip. And this has been made fun of by people, but it's eerie as hell when you consider that this just happened. It seems that our House is in a race to pass some of the most Orwellian legislation we've ever seen in the history of this country as the clock ticks down on the Obama administration's last little breath. And they are just passing these things with overwhelming majorities that are insane. They're insane, okay? And this one is perhaps the most insane. In fact, when I saw this headline, no offense to this website, but when I saw the headline, I had to ask myself if it was fake news because I thought, oh, come on, there's no way they actually did that. And I had to actually go myself and look up this bill. This is not an Onion article. This is not Saturday Night Live skit. This actually really did just happen. So this is HR 4919, which is to reauthorize the Missing Alzheimer's Disease Patient Alert Program and promote initiatives that will reduce the risk of injury and death relating to the wandering characteristics of some children with autism. Now that sounds all good and fine, but this is an Orwellian human tracking program that could quickly and easily get out of control due to the vagueness with which this bill is written. And it mandates that the U.S. Attorney General award grants to law enforcement officials so those agencies can create, establish, and operate locative tracking technology programs. And the mission is to find, quote, individuals with forms of dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease, or children with developmental disabilities, such as autism, who have wandered from safe environments. And it would also require the Attorney General to consult with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, blah, blah, blah. But it's not under the Health and Human Services Department. It's under the U.S. Attorney General and the Department of Justice. If you go and look at the language that is in this bill, it is very ambiguous. If you go look up what a developmental disability is, I mean, you're talking about things like bipolar disorder, ADD, and ADHD are considered developmental disabilities, and you're going to start getting into some serious gray areas on what that means. Now, right now, this bill is voluntary, but listen to Rep. Gohmert, because he's the only person who apparently got up and said anything negative about this bill, and he said a lot. In fact, he said so much that even as I was listening to him talk, I thought, is this a real session of Congress?
Life here in Congress would be so much easier if I simply would not read the bills. This bill creates a program, a federal tracking program, and it starts with Alzheimer's patients, autism patients, but it also includes, according to the bill, developmental disabilities, and that's broad enough that you can start including all kinds of things now that the law has been passed. There is nothing anywhere in the law that prevents a parent from having something that helps that parent track or keep track of their autistic child or child with, according to this bill, developmental disabilities. Nothing. There's nothing that keeps a guardian for using some kind of tracking methodology to keep up with someone who has Alzheimer's.
And so there really is not that justification for creating this system. The only thing that happens by creating this system is that we now have a new level of Orwellian technological control over the people and a whole bump to the police state in a whole new level.
Why wasn't this left then to the Department of Health and Human Services if it's really just a mental health issue? And the answer is it was left to the Attorney General, to the Department of Justice, because truth is, if it needs to expand, that's where they want it to expand.
I mean, can you imagine a world where the police can decide who needs to have a microchip to be tracked? They claim in this bill down here at the bottom that there are limitations, and that the limitations are tracking data may not be used to create a federal database. But I don't know why anyone would trust that just because it says it. And secondly, that it's voluntary. Congressman Gohmert points out that would be very easy to change.
We were assured that this is strictly voluntary, but once you have a program in place, it's very easy for someone to file a petition and ask a judge, such as I once was back in Texas, here's the indications. We need an order for the good of this person, safety of the public, so that this person can be tracked. And it's not just danger to themselves. The bill talks about or caused by the patient, injury that's caused by the patient or could be. And then, despite some of my friends in Congress saying, this is really not a danger, it's nothing to worry about, I get back to the office and my staff hands me an article. Well, now in Japan, they've come up with the best way of tracking people. It's by putting barcodes on fingers. All you need is a barcode on one finger, a barcode on one toe, and then the Japanese government will be able to accurately and adequately track people they're concerned about. So I don't think anybody needs to be worried about the government having this Orwellian program unless perhaps they're Christian, because the Civil Rights Commission thinks that people who talk about religious freedom, religious liberty, Christians that use words like evangelical, that those are the biggest threat perhaps for hate in America. Many in the Department of Homeland Security think the biggest threat for hate crimes, for destruction and death in America are from people who are veterans that may like the idea of the Second Amendment allowing them to keep guns.
Specifically when he's talking about veterans, that's because traumatic brain injury is on the list of developmental disabilities.
There are people who believe the Constitution should be literally followed, and the words that the Constitution actually says should be followed. I mean, the founders of this country would, of course, if they were around today, would be at the top of this administration's no-fly list. You believe the Constitution should be literally followed, or you believe that you should have a right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment, or you believe the 10th Amendment means what it says. Anybody that believes those kind of things is really a threat.
Did he really just get up and say all of that and have to get up and say that? Are we really to the point now in this country where a congressman is saying these kinds of things in front of Congress? And we are. That is the point that we're at.
Anybody that believes those kind of things is really a threat, according to some in this administration and some in what has become more of a permanent government. Administrations come and go, but we've got liberals that are so tolerant they want to take away the rights of anybody with whom they disagree. The blacklist experts, they talk about blacklists of the 50s, and they go beyond anything that the 50s may have had in store.
This has already had a roll call in the Senate.
My understanding, I was told that in the Senate, it was likewise breezed through. Somebody went on the Senate floor when other senators weren't there, maybe 2 people or so, and said, I ask unanimous consent that this bill be passed. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Not much of a vote. We didn't even have a hearing in committee. We didn't, where we bring witnesses, talk to experts, talk to people involved, see what the problem is, see if the cure is worse than the problem. And we didn't have that. We didn't have constitutional experts talk about the indications for our future freedom.
I'm guessing this is just going to be one of those things that's quietly passed. There was really no objection to it. Gomer got up there and said all those things, and that's all good and fine, but it was after it was passed.
There just was not enough attention paid to this bill, and it breaks my heart, and I'm not kidding, I'm not being sarcastic, and I'm afraid because of the bill's passage today, and I'm sure the president will sign it into law. Gee, we get to track people we're concerned about in America. Maybe we'll use a barcode. If we can have the Attorney General, in his opinion, find that a subcutaneous chip implant is non-invasive, then we could do that. But maybe the barcode would be better than a chip. But anyway, we've passed the program.
I really feel like we left the reservation a long time ago. You know how they use this vague language and they play these semantic games, and the little inch that the door is cracked open then gets kicked off the hinges. I just can't believe we're actually watching it happen.
One day they'll be remembered as the ones who quietly pushed this bill through that allowed a federal government to begin tracking for the first time. Perhaps someday we'll have a Congress, before it's too late, that will back up and say, wait a minute, we are not going to be funding with federal taxpayer dollars a tracking system for American citizens. I can guarantee you the program will ultimately be used to involuntarily place tracking information on people. So those things are coming. People need to be aware of them.